Yes, I've heard a lot about the John Birch Society over a period of years, and it's all been bad.
They're a very narrow-minded group. Seems to me as if they're constantly, beating the bushes, looking for communists everywhere.
From what I understand, the John Birch Society is an anti-communist group, of which we need more in this country, I believe.
I think they're a bunch of right-wing nuts. They're anti-sex education and anti-everything.
Well, I have some neighbors that are members of the Birchers, and they're just a great group of people. Everything I've read or seen or heard about them, and I think that they're just doing a fine job of helping our country.
The John Birch Society, look, they're against the poor people, they're against the colored people. They seem to be against everything that this country's supposed to mean. They're probably mostly a bunch of rich people that are just trying to keep their thing going. I can't think of a worse organization in the United States. I really can't.
The wide range of opinions about the John Birch Society indicates considerable confusion about what that organization does and how it operates. I'm Ed Griffin, and in just a moment, you and I are going to travel from Massachusetts to California. We're going into homes and meeting halls all across the nation as we make a personal visit to the John Birch Society. This is Belmont, Massachusetts, nestled into the historic cradle of American liberty. It's only an hour's drive down the coast to Plymouth Rock, where the first pilgrims landed on American soil. It's only 30 minutes from the Old North Church in Boston, where Paul Revere saw the signal for his midnight ride. Only 20 minutes away is the bridge at Concord, where determined farmers fired that shot heard round the world. And it is here, amid this historic setting, that we find the complex of buildings and staff that comprise the headquarters of the John Birch Society. This is the reception room at the headquarters of the John Birch Society in Belmont, Massachusetts. Our tour will begin here. The picture on the wall is of Captain John Birch, the man after whom the organization was named. John Birch was a young American missionary in China when war was declared between the United States and Japan. He joined the armed forces under General Claire Chennault and carried out dangerous missions deep behind enemy lines. Because of his dedication and bravery, he became a hero and a legend in his own time. But he was murdered in cold blood by Chinese communists only a few days after the end of the war. In his life, John Birch exemplified the finest of American qualities and traditions. In his death, there was symbolized the beginning of World War III, that deadly conflict between the forces of communism and Americanism that continues to rage around us even today. The John Birch Society is opposed to communism. Also, fascism, Nazism, socialism, or any other form of total government, regardless of its name. Now, as you can see by the books on display here, the organization is concerned with facts and information. It's an action group, but recognizing the futility of action without knowledge, it places education first. Consequently, a major portion of its resources is devoted to the creation and distribution of educational materials. The staff of the John Birch Society publishes many full-size books each year through a subsidiary known as Western Islands. The list includes history books, novels, documentaries. The Americanist Classic series features many of the best books of the past, which have been smothered or forgotten. By bringing these older books back into print, the Society has been able to give them much wider circulation than they received in their original format. Often it takes over a year to bring a book into being. By contrast, magazines are published more rapidly and can deal with current issues as they occur in the news. The John Birch Society publishes 2 magazines. One, American Opinion, is a monthly and contains in-depth articles on a wide range of timely subjects. The other, Review of the News, is published weekly and contains, in addition to a concise news summary, articles designed to give the reader necessary background information to interpret that news. These publications are backed up by an extensive research department. Every fact is checked and double-checked to ensure that all information is correct and can be proven. These magazines are professional in every way, and that includes a competent staff of specialists to prepare advertising copy for its clients. The Society's high-speed computerized typesetting equipment is kept in constant operation just to keep pace with the heavy demands of the publication schedule for books and magazines. The John Birch Society has become a major publishing house, and by far the largest distributor of Americanist materials in the entire world. American Opinion libraries are bookstores and reading rooms that have become a vital part of the Society's distribution of educational materials. Merchandise is for sale here, but anyone wishing to do so is more than welcome to browse and research with no obligation to buy. All of the materials of the John Birch Society are here, but these comprise only a small part of the total. Many books from other publishers, even those which are not in full agreement with the Society's views, are available through these libraries. The only exceptions are pornography and those which promote class, religious, or racial intolerance, for these could never have any part in the Society's program. American Opinion libraries are owned and operated by members, often at great cost to themselves in time and money. But they volunteer their services willingly, knowing that without them, it would be almost impossible for the average citizen to obtain these educational materials. From coast to coast, there now are over 400 American Opinion libraries in operation. The John Birch Society also has become highly active in the distribution of educational recordings, motion pictures, and film strips. These audiovisual materials have been the backbone of Americanism programs in meeting halls and living rooms from one end of the country to the other. It's estimated that already they have reached 15 million viewers and listeners. The American Opinion Speakers Bureau, with offices on both the East and West Coasts, is another important adjunct to the John Birch Society's program of education. The Bureau fills hundreds of engagements every month with outstanding speakers who are unquestioned authorities in their respective fields.
Of our ship is this: the USS Pueblo never violated the communist proclaimed 12-mile limit. They said, "Heave to or we will fire." They began point-blank strafing and bombardment of our ship, killing 1, wounding 10, all in the superstructure of the ship. And at this time, Commander Birch gave us the order to start destruction of our classified information.
In Russia.
One of the first
I was born in Russia on a farm. My father was a farmer. When the communism took over, one day I remember some men come and they told my father, get out, move out. And they took everything away. They gave him one cow. In the morning, my mother wakes up in the spring.
She said to me one day, I was in the streets picketing, making the demonstrations and the riots and everything. She said to me, she says, dummy, you get out of that movement. Can't you see what you're doing? She says, you're out in the street making all the trouble, and they're getting control of the government.
The excuse of the civil rights movement. With the Mexican people, there's a little more involved. That this was your country, and the gringos took it away from you. And this is what they're trying to do. Get this concept of Aztlán, north from Mexico, 5 states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Texas, and convert them into a Chicano Soviet Republic. Notice that we have 3 movements.
So in Cuba, how you think Castro did it? I saw with my own eyes. When 45,000 men of the armed forces combined surrendered to about 1,800 men that Castro had. And 95% of these men that Castro had, including myself, were not communists. It was a typical communist takeover. He took over with the help and cooperation of the same people.
So father came back to the United States and went to see the president. I saw him that night when he returned from the White House. He looked like he'd been crying. He went immediately to his room and he closed the door.
The American Opinion Speakers Bureau has filled thousands of engagements and has placed its speakers before millions of listeners coast to coast. In terms of sheer number of engagements handled each year, it has become the most active Speakers Bureau in the entire world. Merely offering speakers and films to the public does not ensure that there will be audiences. Someone has to make the booking, rent a hall, create publicity, sell tickets, and then fill that hall. It's hard and thankless work, but members of the John Birch Society pitch in and get that job done too. The average member spends from 4 to 40 hours a week on behalf of the principles in which he believes. The John Birch Society is accomplishing what others have said was impossible. Through its books and magazines, through its bookstores, audiovisual programs, Speakers Bureau, and action programs, it is building its own nationwide communications network, completely independent of the establishment mass media. The John Birch Society does not participate in politics, but it does promote programs that have a profound impact on political action. In Washington, D.C., the Society maintains a small staff for liaison with congressmen, senators, and agencies of government. One of its functions is to keep abreast of pending legislation and committee hearings so that the membership can be informed of these matters while there still is time to do something about them. Another function is to inform congressional representatives of where the John Birch Society stands on various issues. The Society's educational activities help to crystallize public opinion. Then, to give voice to that opinion, it conducts petition drives, letter-writing campaigns, and encourages members to take an active interest in government. The result is an aroused sense of civic and political responsibility. But they are motivated by issues and loyalty to principle, not by party labels or loyalty to candidates. Since members of the Society are among the most active workers within the political parties of their choice, it's inevitable that some should run for office. Congressman John Rousselot of California is an example.
It is important that people have come to understand that the John Birch Society is not a political organization. It's purely educational. That's its major effort, is to educate people. And they are encouraged to be active in the party of their choice, to bring to bear the educational material, the truth that they gain, to bring it to bear in the weight of political action as individuals. But they are not directed which party to go into or which candidates to support. That is their own free individual choice on the basis of the principled stands that those candidates either take or do not take. The important thing that people are they try to encourage people to do in the Birch Society is to fight for the basic concepts of less government and more individual responsibility, and the principles of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, maybe the Federalist Papers, and to fight for those principles. And therefore, when when various political parties desert those principles, the Birch Society member fights for those candidates who are willing to best stand for those principles. And I think that is a proper and correct approach to take.
The basic unit of the John Birch Society is called a chapter, which typically is composed of 10 to 20 members. The society gets things done because it's a real organization, not just a mailing list of supporters and contributors. Each group has a chapter leader, but a high degree of participation is expected from everyone. Each member is viewed as a leader in his own right and in his own sphere of influence within the community. In many areas, special youth chapters have been formed, and their number rapidly is increasing. Composed primarily of students, these groups function exactly the same as other chapters, but their activities are geared more to the interests of young people. Activists in the cause of freedom, they are like a refreshing breeze blowing across the nation's campuses. Regardless of age, members are not discouraged by their small numbers. For the John Birch Society was never intended to be a mass movement. They realize that in a world where most men do practically nothing to advance the principles in which they believe, it takes only the effort of a dedicated few to alter the entire course of history. Chapter leaders receive organizational help and supervision from section leaders, who are responsible for the performance of several chapters within their area. They are all volunteers and give unselfishly of their time and effort. Section leaders report to coordinators, who are full-time employees. Most coordinators at one time have been volunteer section leaders themselves and have had a great deal of practical experience in the field. Coordinators, in turn, are responsible to major coordinators who carry a heavy responsibility for the smooth functioning of the society. A major coordinator's area may extend over several cities or several states, depending on the concentration of population. And with offices in San Marino, California, there is a district governor who administers the society's operations for the 13 western states. In this way, members of the John Birch Society are never left floundering. When they need help, they know that they can rely on a tightly knit field staff that offers positive direction at every turn. The leadership structure of the John Birch Society could not function in the field without a vast amount of staff services to back it up at headquarters in Belmont and at the regional offices in San Marino. Over 1,000 pieces of mail arrive at these offices every day. The volume of outgoing mail is many times that figure. Much of the incoming mail is from members who are encouraged to communicate directly with headquarters. Orders for literature, ideas and suggestions, requests for information, all are handled promptly and with a personal reply. Altogether, there are over 225 full-time employees on the Society's payroll, which runs in excess of $50,000 per week. The Circulation Department handles subscriptions to the Bulletin, American Opinion, and Review of the News magazines. On an average, 8,000 subscriptions are processed every month. Each one is checked and then double-checked for correct address and renewal dates. The most modern and efficient business machines and practices have been incorporated into the Society's operation. This automatic sorter can handle 30,000 subscription cards per hour. This high-speed addressing equipment prints over 8,000 envelopes each hour and 13,000 address labels. This machine can collate 6 separate items, stuff them into an envelope, seal the envelope, and place the proper postage on it, all at the rate of 6,000 per hour. From these facilities, the John Birch Society sends out close to 500,000 pieces every month to all of the 50 states and many parts of the free world. The postage bill for the Society runs in excess of $40,000 every month. When money is received for membership dues, contributions, or purchase of materials, a receipt is issued for every cent and then posted. The books are maintained well beyond the minimum requirements of law and are audited yearly by one of the largest public accounting firms in the United States. The John Birch Society is a non-profit organization. Its current budget for educational materials and programs is in excess of $10 million. Additional millions are spent by members putting those programs and materials into use. One way to measure the increasing success of the John Birch Society is by the growth of these membership files. Its ultimate goal in the United States is 400,000 members. The Director of Field Activities takes a personal interest in new chapters. Just keeping track of the location of each chapter can be quite a job. In the cities, some pins show the location of as many as 10 chapters each. This is the nerve center of the John Birch Society, the office of Robert Welch, founder and president. Not only was the organization created by this man, but it bears the clear birthmark of his life experiences and intellect. The story of Robert Welch is one of a gifted child who learned to read at 2, began studying Latin and algebra at 5, entered the University of North Carolina at 12, as a plebe at the U.S. Naval Academy, ranked 4th out of a class of 1,000. Clashed with Felix Frankfurter while attending Harvard Law School. Struggled his way to a position of prominence in industry and began a personal crusade against collectivism that predates the John Birch Society by at least 15 years. Robert Welch is a scholar in the true sense of that word. There are over 5,000 well-used volumes in his personal library, and there are few subjects in which he is not conversant. He is an accomplished mathematician who has worked seriously on Fermat's last theorem. He is skilled at chess and has played in tournament against many national and international champions. He has a knowledge of 5 languages, loves classical poetry, and has written extensively in the fields of philosophy and history. Robert Welch commands the unhesitating respect and loyalty of those who are members of the John Birch Society. The council of the Society is comprised of approximately 30 men who are prominent in their respective business and professional fields. They meet regularly with Robert Welch and help to establish policy. Mr. William Grady is the director of the executive committee of that council. Many of these men travel great distances to participate in council sessions, yet they serve entirely without compensation. They are men of solid principle and a real credit to the John Birch Society. Council meetings usually are preceded by festive dinners. In March of 1972, the site for this affair was the Century Plaza in Los Angeles. Although that hotel is world-renowned for its convention facilities, this dinner was the largest single banquet ever held in its grand ballroom. The main program was an accent on youth. These are the young people who delivered the speeches and provided the entertainment on that program, including Debbie May, former Miss Indiana. There are those who have claimed that the John Birch Society is too controversial to be effective in opposing communism. In truth, however, not only has the society survived the controversy where others have collapsed, but it has grown and prospered to become the largest and most effective force against communism and collectivism in the entire world. Some will applaud and some will condemn the principles and programs of the John Birch Society. But all will have to agree it's here to stay.